The time I've spent, basically, it has been just in the last couple months, really, traveling around. Obviously, I've come to Harrisburg as a member of the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference for meetings, so I've had the opportunity to, be in Harrisburg for that, and been here for various events in the Diocese of Harrisburg. So that is sort of a limited experience of knowing that. So I do look forward to traveling to every corner of the diocese. I will make my commitment within this year as best as possible to get to every corner, every parish. I want to meet the people of Harrisburg, and also, I also want the people up the street from the cathedral. There's a little building up there called the State Capitol. I want our legislators to know too that hopefully they understand that they have a friend down the street in the cathedral, and I would like to work very closely with them as we work together to have moral principles in the way that we do things, and that we follow our moral principles. It should be the backbone of any of legislative decisions that we make. And I will try to proclaim that to them very clearly, the moral truths that must be the backbone of any legislation we make. Absolutely. Immigration reform is one of the highest priorities, I believe, in this country. It is a crime that we refuse to take this on. And I think it's important for us to understand, where do the bishops of the United States stand on this? Where does the church stand on this? We believe that the immigration laws in this country are not effective. They do not allow people who want to come to this country to be able to do it in a legal fashion. But the church says that, therefore, we push for reform of our immigration laws. Now people say, well, what about the people who come here illegally? The church does not encourage people to break the law, but we also recognize that the law is broken. So we must, first of all, fix the law. The other thing is, we realize that there's all these immigrants who have come illegally to this country. They are here, and so it's unlikely that we're going to line up the planes and the boats and be sending people back. So we should allow those people to be able to come out of the shadows who are doing wonderful work here in this country. They're doing jobs that are necessary. They are helping our economy, and yet they have to live in the shadow. So there's twofold position here. I'm strongly for immigration reform. I think that the sooner that our country gets about the task in correcting our laws so that people will have a legal avenue to come into this country needs to be done. As far as they always talk about the idea of securing the borders. Yes, we have to secure our borders, but we also, in my mind, you have to be realistic. We cannot build a fence from Maine to Washington, so we have to see how can we best do that. It's not the same thing down in the South. We can't build a fence from California to Miami, so how do you secure your borders? And that's something that we should wrestle with and deal with. But I think if we have fair laws, and we do have an avenue for people who want to come to this country, as so many of our ancestors did. For what reason? To rob and steal? No. They come to, to live a good life, to contribute to our society, and we should be open to having that. And so that'll be a part of the agenda as well. Please.
I was hoping you could talk. I understand you have spent all of your career in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, and I understand you have a great fondness for the people of Philadelphia. Can you say what you think you're going to miss most? And
the thing I'll miss most about the people in Philadelphia, they're great people, and I've been very fortunate living all my life. God has been blessed me with so many people. And the thing I think that I will miss about them is the love that they've given to me, and also their faith. I always tell people it's more important. Sometimes they ask the priest or the bishop, the man of faith, a person of faith. I get strength from the faith of others. My faith, a lot of times, is so limited when I encounter other people of great faith. I always tell the story when I was a pastor of St. Joe's in Downingtown. The first week I was there, I went out on communion calls, and I went to a door, and it was open, the screen door, and I knocked. There was no answer. I knocked again, no answer. Knocked again, no answer. So I said, is anybody home? I yelled in, and so there was this tiny voice that came, says, oh, is that you, Monsignor? I said, yes. She says, come in. I went in, and it was this Teresa Catrona. She was a woman who had MS, okay, and cystic fibrosis. And she was tied to a oxygen machine, and she had different needles and stuff in her venous. And she says, oh, I'm so happy to see you. And have you brought Jesus with you? And her faith was so, says, and, you know, I encountered her for a year. She died after a year, but I always call her St. Teresa of Downingtown. And the reason why, because as though she was so feeble and sick, she used to call people on the phone. She used to use the telephone. Whenever she heard anybody who was sick or anybody who had a problem or difficulty, she would get on the phone and talk to them, tell them, oh, God's with them. God is with you. You know, and a couple of times she had to go into the hospital. And when I go to the hospital, you know, as I walk in, I'd ask the nurses, is Teresa? Oh, Teresa, she's down the hall. Boy, what a great woman she is. You know, she visits all the patients. She does, and you go in, and she had such joy, you know, and it was always time, and whenever I'd see her, she'd say, oh, do you have Jesus with you in the Eucharist? I said, yes, oh, you're so good. And I thought to myself, I'm so good. Yeah, Teresa, you are so good. But that is what I miss, the faith of the people. But I'm anxious to get to know the people here in Harrisburg, because I know that the same thing. I'm a big believer in people are good. You know, we tend to think today that, but we have to understand something. We have to get closer together. I mean, one of the strengths I have is I like to talk to people, you know, and I like to meet people. And I always try to look at the good in people. You know, we live in a society that always wants to tear people down. No, we have to build people up because people are good. So that's one of the things I'll miss about the support I get from the people in Philadelphia, you know, and but I know that after a few months, I'm sure in Harrisburg, I'll get to know the people here, and I'll feel the same way.